Greetings and salutations. Today we'll be covering the vanishing of Chris Sylvia on the Pacific Crest Trail. The vast expanse of the Pacific Crest Trail is where many hikers test themselves. Being closely aligned with the highest portions of the Cascade and Sierra Nevada mountain ranges makes this one of the most scenic trails in the entirety of the United States. This is where Christopher Sylvia, a seasoned hiker, would embark on a solo expedition starting in Southern California in February 2015. His intention was to meet his roommate at a Buddhist temple near San Diego once completing the hike. However, fate seemed to have other plans. On the day of the rendezvous, Chris was nowhere to be found, and later still, Chris would fail to show up at the agreed upon meeting point. Following this, a search would be launched, and to everyone's bewilderment, his hiking and camping gear would be discovered along the trail, deserted and forsaken. As investigators delved into the enigma of his disappearance, they would be met with question after question. This section of the Pacific Crest Trail has been known to be relatively safe, even for solo hikers, and it's been noted to meander through semi-arid terrain with sparse vegetation, making it unlikely to conceal any trace of a missing person. Moreover, Chris was a seasoned hiker who would be unlikely to wander far from his belongings. However, despite an extensive search effort to locate him, Chris Sylvia has eluded discovery. The search has been noted to be relentless, scouring every nook and cranny of the area he would have been able to reach. However, he seems to have vanished without a trace. Even the potential presence for mountain lions does not seem like a likely explanation for his disappearance, due to those from the area being known to be people shy and avoid humans at almost all costs. Investigators left to question if there was something more to this disappearance. With no evidence of criminal activity having surfaced against hikers in the area around the time of the disappearance, this seemed unlikely. The distance from the border would also make an encounter with drug smugglers highly improbable. So as investigators persisted, questions would only multiply, and answers remained elusive. The chilling tale of 28-year-old hiker Christopher Sylvia took place in the rugged wilderness of the Pacific Crest Trail, particularly when he embarked on a solo expedition from Anza Borrego to Campo on February 12th. Little did anyone know that this journey would lead to a disappearance with little to no explanation. On February 17th, when Chris failed to rendezvous with his roommate Min Kim at their designated meeting point, concern would swiftly turn into alarm. When speaking to NBC7, Kim expressed the immense weight of worry throughout the search for his friend. As the days stretched on, the Pacific Crest Trail would reveal hints of what had truly happened to Chris. Other hikers on the trail would eventually stumble upon traces of Chris Sylvia. His belongings, including his sleeping bag and backpack, would be discovered just north of Warner Springs, 13 miles from Highway 79. After this, the search would intensify as sheriff's deputies and rescue teams would scour the wilderness around the area where his items were found. However, despite their best efforts, nature would intervene, and a sudden turn in weather conditions forced the searchers to halt, and soon the trail grew silent, causing all hope of finding Chris to disappear, leading the sheriff's department to take a rather unprecedented step of indefinitely calling off the search. Amidst the uncertainty, Chris's grieving mother, Nancy Sylvia, spoke with NBC7, grappling with her loss. An experienced hiker herself, she would go on to question why her son would go on to embark on such a journey alone, his abandoned gear further perplexing her, as he was not one to part with his belongings willingly. Min Kim, a pivotal witness to this case, would stand firm and offer no speculation while fully cooperating with the authorities. As the investigation unfolded, the trail itself, one which held many secrets, went cold. The sheriff's department would refrain from considering this a criminal investigation, despite the supposition from Chris's mother. On to the trail itself, which stands amidst the breathtaking majesty of the United States western landscapes. The Pacific Crest Trail is an alluring and beautiful path that beckons to many. The trail itself stretches an astonishing 2,653 miles, or 4,270 kilometers. This scenic trail snakes its way along the highest crests of the Cascade and Sierra Nevada mountain ranges, and the vistas are shrouded in grandeur. The fact that the Pacific Crest Trail ventures through 25 national forests and 7 national parks could lend credence to some theories surrounding the disappearance of Chris Sylvia. It must be noted that the pattern was identified after Chris's disappearance, but since the year 2016, the illustrious Pacific Crest Trail has witnessed a series of perplexing disappearances, which have left investigators bewildered. This series of disappearances include those of Chris Fowler and David O'Sullivan, along with the aforementioned Chris Sylvia, which has beckoned investigators to dig deeper into the wilderness of the Pacific Crest Trail. It was the allure of the Southern California portion of the trail which called to Chris when he embarked on his solitary hike along the trail in early 2015. It was a respite from the challenges life had presented him. Chris sought solace along the breathtaking vistas of the trail as he ventured into the wilderness, carrying only his thoughts and a backpack full of necessities. Chris found himself at a crossroads, grappling with a recent breakup and the need to clear his mind as he set out on his journey of introspection. The plan was simple. He had designated 2 weeks for this communion with nature, beginning his trek on February 12, 2015 in Anza, California, and he intended to rendezvous with his friend on February the 24th in Campo, California. Said friend was his roommate, Min Kim, and together they would reconnect after Chris's soul-searching expedition. Unfortunately, things did not go as planned. When February the 24th came about and Chris was nowhere to be seen, Min felt this was cause for concern. Fearing the worst, he would report his friend as missing, setting in motion a search that would span miles of treacherous terrain, yet yield no trace of the elusive hiker. It must be noted that finding Chris was made all the more difficult due to him being a seasoned minimalist, essentially being equipped with nothing more than the essential sleeping gear, the minimum sustenance necessary, and a book for entertainment. He had avoided taking many of the tools which would have helped him, such as a GPS or an emergency trail beacon. Some rather strange things had begun to occur just a few days into his expedition, something that had led Chris to make a perplexing call to Min Kim, requesting an unscheduled rendezvous near Warner Springs, California. Whatever the intention that lay behind this unusual request remains shrouded in uncertainty, leaving a large amount of room for speculation. Was he fatigued and yearning to return home? Had the Buddhist temple nearby factored in his change of course? Only fragments of this truth are known. Kim recalls Chris's mention of having crazy stories to share, and the fervor of which he sought out his friend's presence on the day of the call. However, misfortune would fall upon Chris when Kim's work obligations thwarted the meeting. A twinge of frustration spread through the air as Chris supposedly awaited his friend. As time stretched on, Chris would remain absent from the rescheduled meeting spot, causing Kim's concern to deepen. He was only left to question, was he driven by vexation or impatience? Had he felt like his friend had abandoned him in a time of need? And with his later absence from their meeting point on February 24th, Min would feel a severe amount of worry for his friend, deciding it was time to report Chris as officially missing. As the search went on in the Pacific Crest Trail, a baffling scene would await searchers. A yellow sleeping pad and a spread out sleeping bag were found, incongruously arranged, with Chris's backpack sitting nearby. Curiosity had gripped those who had originally stumbled upon this site, as it hardly resembled a place for slumber or rest. Rather, it seemed like a place to contemplate the valley below, which begs the question, why would the sleeping gear be unpacked? Speculation circulated as to whether Chris had been searching for something within his backpack, which necessitated the removal of all its contents, including his wallet, his cell phone, and a treasured book, which he had brought along. These items were all conspicuously absent from the belongings. The question many had these items lain here since February the 15th, due to the closeness to Warner Springs, along with where was Chris now? In this time of crisis, the tightly knit local hiking community rose to the occasion as they exemplified camaraderie by aiding in the search, forming a veritable army of volunteers to eagerly comb through every crevice for their fellow hiker. Authorities would also unleash multiple search dogs and use a series of helicopters in an attempt to unveil the fate of this enigmatic wanderer. Unfortunately, their endeavors would yield no answers. However, a glimmer of hope would emerge when, like a breadcrumb, Chris's book would be discovered nearby, still lingering close to the place where his belongings had been found. However, this proved but a bitter comfort, as the truth remained elusive. Despite their relentless pursuit, harsh weather would force the search to come to a halt on March the 3rd. As the mystery of Chris Sylvia's disappearance deepens, we are left to ponder a litany of questions. These include, could he have met an untimely fate due to an accident? And if so, why would he have forsaken all his belongings if that were the case? If it were an accident, he shouldn't have been able to stray very far from his backpack, and said area was meticulously searched, along with providing little foliage to hide human remains from sight. Nestled near mile marker 127, the terrain where his possessions were found boasted an open-air hike area, which was a realm known to have few dangers compared to other sections of the trail, despite the mention of mountain lions, which wildlife experts deemed the likelihood of an attack by was remarkably low, as these specific creatures had been known to show a rather well-known shyness towards any human interaction. That, along with the fact that no trace of any mountain lions were found in the area, made an attack by such an animal unlikely. On the other hand, the specter of foul play looms large in the minds of Chris's family. The question of, could an ominous presence be the reason for the vanishing? Perhaps he encountered someone, be it a well-meaning stranger or some type of criminal, including but not limited to drug and human traffickers. The cryptic words he shared with Min Kim during that haunting phone call, noting the crazy stories he had to tell, do make a daring encounter with a criminal element leading to his untimely demise a more likely scenario. We cannot discount the possibility of self-termination. His emotional struggles, compounded with the recent breakup, cast a shadow over his mental state, even though those close to him deny any tendencies towards self-termination. It is imperative to recognize the potential his inner turmoil may have on his vanishing, regardless if others knew about it or not. The agony of heartbreak added on to his friend's unavailability could have contributed to a negative headspace. However, without a body, all these theories are merely conjecture, some more likely than others, but that doesn't mean much until the veil of mystery is lifted. With the information provided, a timeline can be formed to better understand this case. Early February 2015, Chris Sylvia, a 28-year-old experienced hiker, decides to embark on a solo hike in a section of the Pacific Crest Trail in Southern California. He planned to hike from Anza to Campo on a trip spanning 12 days. February 12th, 2015, Chris is dropped off in Anza, California in order to start his trek along the Pacific Crest Trail. February 16th, 2015. Chris contacts his roommate and friend, Min Kim, and asks to meet him near Warner Springs, California, instead of Campo as originally planned. February 17th, the day Chris was supposed to meet up with Kim. Unfortunately, he fails to show up. Kim assumes Chris decided to continue the hike as originally planned, so he returns home. February 24th, 2015. Chris is expected to meet up with Kim in Campo. However, he never appears. Kim goes on to report Chris as missing to authorities. Late February 2015, a search operation is launched to locate Chris along the Pacific Crest Trail. Volunteers, search dogs, along with helicopters are all deployed in order to find some trace of him. Early March 2015, some of Chris's belongings, including his yellow sleeping pad, sleeping bag, and backpack, are discovered near mile marker 127, north of Warner Springs. His wallet, cell phone, along with the book he had carried, are all found to be missing. March 3rd, 2015, the search for Chris is called off temporarily due to adverse weather conditions. Late March 2015, authorities resume the search for Chris, but despite extensive search efforts, no further clues could be found about his whereabouts. In the vast expanse of the Pacific Crest Trail, the seasoned hiker known as Chris Sylvia ventured out into the wilderness, leaving behind a trail of uncertainty and questions. Despite the extensive searches and the resources funneled into this case, his disappearance remains shrouded in mystery, with conflicting theories ranging from everything between foul play and even the possibility of an intentional disappearance to an animal attack. While his belongings were eventually found, them being located only added an eerie twist to the tale, which still defies explanation. Was he met with misfortune, or did something more sinister befall him? The enigma of Chris Sylvia's fate endures, leaving us to wonder if the truth will ever be revealed. If you remained with me until the end, I thank you, and I do hope you stay tuned and subscribe for more content.